Okay, I'm going to get started. And hopefully the others can rejoin. So you're probably wondering, why have I got a picture of a nose for a tinnitus webinar? Well, you're in the right place. And the reason I've got this picture is because I'm going to use it to kind of demonstrate something. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you noticed your nose out of the corner of your vision? It was probably quite some time ago, but you probably noticed it just now because I asked you the question. Okay, let me ask you another question. When was the last time you noticed your tinnitus? I imagine the answer to that was probably sometime quite recently, almost certainly within the last day. Now imagine if the answer was the same for the first question. The last time you noticed your tinnitus was, you couldn't remember the last time you noticed it, but you noticed it just because I made you aware of it by asking you the question. Well, that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. I'm going to teach you how we can take advantage of this process that our brain goes through to stop us picking up stimuluses or stimuli that are deemed as threats, such as tinnitus, so that we stop noticing them. Like you would your nose. You can still see the nose out of the corner of your vision if you look at it with intent, but otherwise you wouldn't notice it. If you are just rejoining, I'm really sorry about the technical issue we had earlier. Thank you for rejoining. So this webinar, we're going to learn more about the one-to-one program and how it works. As I said, my name's Dr. Edmund Farrar. I'm an ex-military doctor and I'm the founder of Otto. So here's what we're going to talk about today. 1, you don't just have to learn to live with tinnitus, contrary to what you've been told already, probably by your doctor, perhaps by an ENT, perhaps by an audiologist. 2, I'm going to teach you and help you understand why you notice your tinnitus. 3, I'm going to teach you what it feels like to be at the point where you no longer notice your tinnitus, when you've tuned it out. So the point where, for example, you've no longer noticed your nose, the point where you're no longer noticing your tinnitus. What does that feel like? That's what I'm going to explain to you this evening. And number 4, how to get there. Clinically proven methods that work, which we deliver in the one-to-one program. Bit of background about us, if you're not familiar with who we are. We've helped over 70,000 people tune out tinnitus. We're a team of some of the world's top tinnitus experts. We've worked really hard to assemble some of the people with a lot of experience in tinnitus management: ENTs, researchers, audiologists, doctors. And that's allowed us to create these programs that can be so powerful for tuning out tinnitus. Okay. If I asked you to question, let me ask you another question. Did your doctor tell you that there's nothing that can be done about tinnitus? Did your ENT surgeon tell you there's nothing that can be done about tinnitus? Most people that I've spoken to that have seen a doctor about their tinnitus have been told something along these lines. And it feels like a kick in the teeth, because you go to the doctor or the ENT, and they're the final hope you have for getting this thing sorted. And then they tell you, sorry, I can't do anything. And that really, really is a blow. And then I imagine you may have gone home and gone onto Google and started searching for help with tinnitus. And you might have come across a tinnitus forum, and you saw some fairly unpleasant posts on the tinnitus forum about how tinnitus has been ruining people's lives. And that makes you feel even worse. And all of this leads you to believe that there is nothing you can really do for tinnitus. Well, I'm here to tell you something different. That's not true. That is categorically incorrect. There is plenty you can do for tinnitus. Just because there's no cure and we can't get rid of it completely doesn't mean it's not treatable. Doesn't mean we can't make it better. And that's what I'm going to explain this evening. So I want to give you all a message of hope that tinnitus is treatable and it's entirely possible to live a good, fulfilling life with tinnitus. Bit about me. So I've experienced tinnitus myself. I've had tinnitus for a number of years. It became worse when I was a doctor in the Royal Air Force. I went through a really stressful period in my life around 3.5 years ago. And this is when my tinnitus got particularly worse. The main impact it had on me was stopping me from getting a good night's sleep, which made me tired, which made my tinnitus more noticeable during the day. And it became a problem. Thankfully, I got access to the right help and I was able to use the tools I'm going to talk about here to tune it out. So if I fast forward to where I am now, and I stop talking, I can hear my tinnitus. If I listen for it with intent, it's there. But I only notice it probably 4 or 5 times per week. When I was a doctor in the Royal Air Force, I actually saw lots of people with tinnitus a lot more severe than mine was, and it was completely destroying these people's lives. Speaking to these men and women where tinnitus was so severe for them made me realize how difficult it was for these people to access help. And that's why I founded Otto. Right, another question. How did it feel when your tinnitus first started? What was the emotion you felt? For me, it was fear, stress, a bit of anxiety, a bit of sadness, a bit of guilt as well that I'd listened to music too loudly when I was younger. It made me feel bad. My reaction to the tinnitus was a bad one. It just made me feel really unpleasant. And I imagine the feelings that you all had when you first noticed your tinnitus, when you first started hearing it, were similar. Anxiety, fear, stress, sadness, hopelessness, isolation, all these horrible, really difficult emotions that tinnitus gives us. And it's because tinnitus makes us feel bad that we notice it. Let me explain. Some of you will have seen this graph in previous webinars. Some of you will have seen me explaining this graph. We notice tinnitus because it makes us feel bad. So your brain's automatic reaction to tinnitus is a reaction of sadness or any one of those negative emotions. And because the automatic reaction is to make us feel bad, your brain registers it as a threat. Okay? So your brain, as a protective mechanism, will need to keep checking for this threat. And in doing so, it will continually make you aware of this thing that's making you feel bad. So your brain is like, okay, thing making me feel bad, I need to keep making you aware of it. It's like a protective mechanism. It's not doing it deliberately. It's doing it because it's trying to stop something bad happening from you or to you. And in continually checking for the tinnitus, you notice it. And then when you notice it, it makes you feel bad. That reinforces to your brain that it's a threat. Your brain keeps checking for the threat. You notice it again. I imagine most of you, if not nearly all of you, are stuck in or aware of this cycle that you can get stuck in. And practical example, let's say you go into a quiet room or a quiet environment. I'll imagine what happens is that the first thing you do is check, is my tinnitus there? Your brain is scanning for the tinnitus. If the noise goes down, you'll check automatically, is your tinnitus there? And this is the exact reason why that happens, is because your brain thinks it's bad, so it needs to make you aware of it. And then, of course, if you go into a quiet room and you scan for it and it makes you, and you hear it, then it makes you feel bad again. So what can we do to get out of this cycle? Well, we change your brain's automatic reaction to the sound you're hearing. There's an important word here, automatic reaction. This isn't something you choose to do. This isn't your fault. I don't want you to think that I'm saying I'll just react differently to your tinnitus. If it was as simple as that, we wouldn't be having this webinar. So it's not a case of just saying react differently. Okay, I'll react differently. It's a case of an automatic learned reaction that your brain has that we need to work on changing. And if we can change this reaction, we'll interrupt this cycle. Your tinnitus will stop making you feel bad. Your brain will no longer think it's a threat. And as a result, it will no longer need to keep checking for that threat. If we interrupt this cycle, two things are going to happen. One, you will stop noticing your tinnitus. You'll stop hearing it. It'll still be there, but you won't notice it. Just like you don't notice your nose. Two, if you do notice it, if you listen for it with intent, if you deliberately check to see if your tinnitus is there, like I can do now, it won't bother you. The sound won't make you feel like it's making you feel at the moment. And the end result is you've got your life back. You can go back to the person you were before your tinnitus started. Your tinnitus no longer has an impact on your life. It's there if you listen for it, but you don't really think about it and you forget about it most of the time. I'm not saying that your tinnitus is going to go away. It will still be there, but in the same way your nose is still there. If you look at it, it won't be a problem for you. If anyone has any questions about the explanation I've just given, please do put them in the Q&A. I will get round to them. We've got an opportunity to ask me questions or ask me very specific questions. So I will get round to them. Please do fire away and put them in the Q&A. So how does this feel? What does it feel like to get to this point when you've tuned this tinnitus out? So I gave the example of a nose. I'm going to give you another example now. Excuse me. Think of the last time you went on a long haul flight. In fact, it could even be a short haul flight. Think of the last time you went on a flight. You sit down, put your seatbelt on, and the aircraft engines turn on. And it's loud. It's really noticeable. You can hear the engines. Plane taxis, gets to the end of the runway, accelerates, and you take off. And the engines are getting really loud at this point. It's really loud, really noticeable. But then after you've taken off, within 2 or 3 minutes, you've forgotten about the sound of the engines. Your brain is no longer picking up that sound. It no longer registers that sound because it's not something that you need to be aware of. You can go back to reading a book. You can go back to watching a film. You can sleep. You can talk to a friend. And for the majority of the flight, you will not be aware of the aircraft engines. Okay. If you do become aware of them, you just become aware of them and then you go back to what you're doing very quickly. So think to the last time we went on the flight, think how it felt. You know, the aircraft engines are loud. And I imagine if I was to put an aircraft engine outside your bedroom window, it would be pretty unbearable. You wouldn't be able to sleep. You wouldn't be able to do anything. And that's because you're not used to it. It's not something that is natural for you or normal to you. Okay. Well, now the question is, how do we get you to this point? What's the fastest way to get to the point where those two things have happened? You no longer notice tinnitus and it doesn't bother you if you do notice it. It's proven that the most effective way to do that is with something called cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. CBT works on the basis that how we think determines how we feel. And if we change how we think, it will change how we feel and how we behave. So if we can change how you think about your tinnitus, it will change how you feel about your tinnitus. Your brain's automatic reaction to your tinnitus will change. And what the process normally involves is, to begin with, gaining a much deeper understanding of your own automatic reaction that you have to your tinnitus, and understanding where that reaction comes from, why you have that reaction, and the beliefs that you have about your tinnitus that lead to that reaction. Once we've better understood that reaction, we can work on changing those thoughts, changing those beliefs, and in doing so, in time, it will change how we feel. It's not an overnight change, but it's definitely possible to get a good result with cognitive behavioral therapy. And that's reflected in the latest scientific research. This study is called a systematic review. It's the highest level of evidence for scientific research. This study combined the results of lots of smaller studies, and they found that CBT is effective therapy for tinnitus. So in the UK, it's recommended for healthcare professionals as first line. In the US, it's recommended as first line, and in Europe, it's recommended as first line. And there's a reason for that. It's because it's clinically effective. I'm going to take a guess that probably most of you haven't had CBT, and that's, of course, one of the reasons why Otto exists. Accessing CBT, both here in the UK and in the US, is incredibly difficult because there just aren't that many trained practitioners that can deliver it. And that's where Otto comes in. If you would like to access CBT for tinnitus, that's the exact reason why we built the one-to-one program. So if you look at the research that we've done with our CBT, Otto CBT, we have a 96% success rate. 96%. And what we've defined success by is moving by at least one stage of tinnitus relief. So 4 stages of tinnitus relief. Stage 1 being really early stage of tinnitus, it's having a really big impact on your life. Stage 4 being your tinnitus no longer affects you. Remember those 2 things I said? Tinnitus doesn't bother you, you stop noticing it. That's stage 4. The majority of people that we work with come in at stage 2 or 3. So what you're finding here is that the majority of people who go through our program will actually get to stage 4. I'm going to talk in a bit about why the results we get are so effective. But before I go on to that, I can see there's one question in the chat. If you have any questions about anything I've just said, please put them in the Q&A. And I'm going to go on to answer some of these questions now. So Steve, thanks for joining. Thanks for your question. How do you wake up and not listen for your tinnitus? Great question. Let me go back to what I said earlier. When you're in a quiet environment, whether that be if you move into a quiet environment or you're in a quiet environment and, for example, you wake up, first thing you'll probably automatically do is listen out for your tinnitus, check for your tinnitus. It's that protective process that your brain has to make you aware of it. And what Steve's asking is, how do you stop that from happening? Well, it's a number of things, Steve, that we'll work with you on. Steve, I know I think you're working with us at the moment on the program. There's a number of things that we'll work with you on to do that. Firstly, in the moment, so that when that does happen, what can you do in the moment to try and change things, or to change the automatic process? And what can you do in preparation for that? So there's things you can do in the moment when that happens. Is you need to teach your brain and your body that your tinnitus is not a threat. And the way to do that in the moment is by actually with a breathing exercise. The impact of breathing exercises is actually a lot more powerful than you might think. And there's really good research to show that this is effective. When you wake up and you listen for your tinnitus and you hear your tinnitus, if it makes you feel bad, you're reinforcing to your brain that your tinnitus is a threat. Therefore, what you need to do is interrupt that kind of reaction cycle. If you scan for your tinnitus and it doesn't make you feel bad, your brain's going to stop scanning for it when you wake up. So what you need to do is stop yourself from feeling bad when you scan for your tinnitus. And the way to do that is with breathing, really slowing your breathing down and breathing exercise in the Otto app. And then, of course, there's things that you can do before that happens to prepare for that. And that's CBT. Do the CBT exercises, work through the program we have in the app, work through the exercises that your specialist recommends for you. I hope that was helpful, Steve. Great. So we've got no more open questions. I'm going to go on and tell you all more about the one-to-one program and how it works. So if you want to try tuning out tinnitus, we built this program to get you there as quickly as possible. So how does it work? The one-to-one program includes everything you need to stop hearing your tinnitus in a really short space of time. You'll get access to 2 one-on-one specialist sessions per month. The specialist is going to build you a custom plan. So in the early sessions, your specialist will work with you to better understand your tinnitus. They will put together sessions that you should go away and practice to get the fastest results. So it's personalized to you. And then you'll be able to access these sessions directly from the Otto app. So it's super personalized to the experience you're having right now with your tinnitus and the struggles that you're having with your tinnitus. You'll get access to the digital CBT program in the Otto app, which is another comprehensive resource to teach you these skills and techniques to tune out tinnitus. You'll get access to the success stories in the app, and of course, priority support from our world-class team. You saw we have some of the world's top tinnitus experts. You'll have us on hand to answer your questions whenever you need. So thank you, Elisa, for your question. I'm going to come back to that. If anyone else has any questions, please do put them in the chat. Elisa, that's a great question, and I will come back to it, I promise. How much does this cost? Well, it costs £249 per month. You can cancel any time. And that equates to $319 per month if you're in the US. That £249 per month gives you access to the digital CBT program, the 2 specialist sessions, the custom plan, us building that custom plan for you, the success stories, and the priority support from our team. Many questions we often get asked, how long will you need to work with us for? On average, most customers will work with us for between 2 and 4 months. Many find one-on-one personalized guidance to be very reassuring and helpful, so will work with us for longer. But I would suggest that it would take you between 2 and 4 months to get to a noticeable, a really positive result, a good result. You'll start noticing a difference after around a month, but it will take between 2 and 4 months to get to the point where you feel like you're noting a tinnitus a lot less. So I'm really excited to offer we have a special offer on this week for the one-to-one package. We run these special offers every so often. If you sign up this week, by the end of tomorrow, you'll get a free 30-minute call with me, so you can hear about my personal experience with tinnitus and what works in my habituation journey. And you also get a year's access to the Otto app, which is worth £120, $140. So you can tackle whatever your tinnitus throws at you well after you've finished the one-to-one program. So you'll have that resource whenever you need. This offer is running for the next 24 hours. Because we get such convincing results, because that 96% success rate we have, we're able to completely de-risk this for you. Oh, sorry, I've actually got the wrong guarantee here. So the money back guarantee we have is if by 6 sessions you haven't moved by at least one stage of tinnitus relief, we'll keep working with you for free until you do. And we're only really able to offer that type of guarantee and de-risk this for you because we get such good results, because the people we've worked with so far have achieved their goal. So if you get to session 6 and you haven't noticed a significant improvement, we'll keep working with you for free, one-on-one, until you do get that result. So I'm going to go through your questions now. So Elisa's asked, Elisa has intermittent tinnitus. So some days I hardly hear it at all, and the very next days is impossibly loud. Would it be for me? Elisa, this is so common with tinnitus. It's incredibly common for tinnitus to vary quite significantly day to day. It's common for the sound to change. It's common for it to go from one ear to the other. And because that happens, because your tinnitus varies, it can make it very difficult to manage, because you're thinking on the good days, how long have I got until it gets bad? How long have I got until it starts causing me problems again? And even though it's not loud on the good days, you're probably thinking about your tinnitus quite a lot, and you're checking to see whether it's there, so that when it does come back, it becomes a lot louder. So I'm sorry that's happened, because I know how difficult that can be. I know how hard it is. However, the fact that this is happening, even though it might not feel like it, is a good sign. It shows that this process of habituation has started. This process of tuning out tinnitus has begun, and actually things are in motion, and with a bit of help, things can get better. So would it be for me? Would it be for you? Absolutely. You know, this is the bread and butter of what we do. We work with so many people that have similar difficulties to you, and we can work with you on strategies to essentially, when it comes to a bad day, so you're fully equipped, you know what to do, you know how to manage it. And what actually we'd aim to do is reduce the frequency quite significantly of those bad days, so you actually have a lot less bad days. And you'll notice that the bad days go from perhaps once a week to once every couple of weeks, to the point where they fade out completely. So Dave, good question. How does the custom habituation plan offer this package differ from the 90-day tinnitus tune-up package? So we also, thanks for the question, Dave. So we also offer a 90-day tinnitus tune-up package, and that's similar to the one-to-one program, but instead of one-on-one coaching, you'll get access to group coaching. So you'll be working in a group. The plan in this package, the plan in the one-to-one package, the custom plan, differs in that your specialist will be putting the sessions for you to practice directly in the app, and there'll be an area in the app for you to access these sessions that your specialist recommended. And the reason there's a difference there is because we launched the one-to-one program back in January. We only launched the 90-day package in July. So although that custom plan is still personalized, you still get access to it, we've not yet integrated it in with the app. Good question though, Dave. So just to summarize, the custom habituation plan you'll get will be accessed directly in the app. Your specialist will recommend sessions, that you can just go away and practice. So a question from Diane: joined the 1-to-1 2 weeks ago. Do I still get the 1 year's digital program? So Diane, if you send us a message about that in directly through the app, we can look into that for you, and one of the team will be able to help you. Great. Does anyone else have any questions? I've gone over all the source material, and we've kind of gone over the questions. Perhaps it would be just helpful for me to go over the 1-to-1 program, how it works, what it includes, and perhaps what a typical session 1 might look like. In your first session, you'll spend getting a small amount of time getting to know your specialist. It's important when you have a one-on-one relationship that you understand each other. And you'll really dive into better understanding your own reaction, your brain's automatic reaction that you have to your tinnitus. Understanding that automatic reaction is key to changing it. We need to dive into the thoughts and the beliefs that you have about your tinnitus that leads to that reaction, so that we can work on modifying those beliefs and modifying those thoughts, and then changing a reaction. And remember, when we change the reactions to tinnitus, your brain no longer needs to keep making you aware of it. So those two things happen. You stop noticing it. And if you do notice it, it no longer bothers you. Once you've got a better understanding of your of how the tinnitus impacts you, and your brain's reactions to tinnitus, we can then go on to working to change it. So your specialist will teach you some exercises that you can go away and do. And those exercises you'll be able to practice directly from the Otto app. So these exercises will be personalized to you. They will be relevant to the things that you're struggling with. Let's say you're struggling with sleep. There'll be exercises in there that you'll be able to help practice before you go to sleep that will help you get a good night's sleep. Let's say you're struggling with some anxiety around your tinnitus. Those exercises will be personalized to that. Let's say your tinnitus varies a lot and it changes from day to day. You're like Elisa, and it's your tinnitus is difficult to manage because of that. The exercise your specialist recommends will match those difficulties you're having. And then in between sessions, so you'll have 2 sessions per month, every 2 weeks. In between sessions, all you need to do is go away and practice what we're teaching you. There's no real thinking involved. You've just got to go away and practice these things 5 minutes a day. There's no big time commitment here. And then go back to the specialist in 2 weeks, see how you've got on, and you'll dig a bit deeper, see how things have gone. So that's kind of how you'd work with the specialist on a bi-weekly basis, and the things that you do in between. So we currently have a short waiting list to sign up to the 1-to-1 program because we have a lot of demand. So if you do want to sign up, if you're really interested by what we offer, we do have a limited number of slots available. I'm going to post a link in the chat that you can use to sign up this evening. So what will happen is you'll make the first payment, and once you've made that first payment, we will be in touch to get you booked in for your first session. Okay. We'll also send you a questionnaire to work through that will help build that personalized plan. And we'll give you some more information as well. You'll get access to the app, the premium version of the app, straight away. And then if you do sign up within the next 24 hours, you'll also be able to, I'll get in touch so you can book in your one-on-one with me, so we can talk about a bit more about some of the techniques that you can use, and hear about my journey with tinnitus also. So if you do want to sign up, I'm putting a link in the chat. We do have limited slots available to start soon. But I think we've got a couple of weeks waiting list at the moment. So if you wanted to get started quickly, sign up as soon as possible. We've got another question in the chat. Elisa, does it also help with hyperacusis, which I get when tinnitus is very loud? Okay, so hyperacusis, great question, Elisa. Thank you for asking. Hyperacusis is when sound becomes really uncomfortable. Oh, sorry, Dave. Dave's just kindly pointed out that chat is disabled. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm just going to make sure that chat is on. Okay, so I've posted that link again in the chat if you didn't get it the first time. So hyperacusis is when sound becomes really uncomfortable. Hyperacusis is when, with tinnitus, it becomes actually painful and it makes our tinnitus worse to hear certain sounds. And the two are really closely linked. Tinnitus can lead to hyperacusis. The good thing is, Elisa, is that the treatment for hyperacusis is actually the same as it is for tinnitus, cognitive behavioral therapy. And the way it works is by, instead of changing a reaction to the tinnitus, we'll work with you on changing your reaction to the sounds that you feel uncomfortable, that make you feel uncomfortable. And in changing that reaction, it will help your brain to normalize those sounds. And that horrible, uncomfortable feeling that you have when those sounds happen will reduce, and it will no longer be as much of a problem for you. So if you do have hyperacusis, we have a specialist audiologist, Dr. Gladys Sander, who is really experienced in both tinnitus and hyperacusis and would be applicable for both. So what we'd probably do, Elisa, is we'd start working with you on the tinnitus and just kind of general help with tinnitus, and then we'd be able to work on the hyperacusis as well. So this would cover both. Steve's said, just started my one-to-one, so looking forward to getting to the habituation. Great, Steve, stick with it. It sounds like you've taken the first step, which is often the most important part. The most important thing you can do now is persistence and stick with it, keep practicing, and you'll notice that with time, things will start to get better, things will start to improve. Diane, how's your leg? Thank you for asking, Diane. So unfortunately, I had to cancel a meeting with Diane a few weeks back because I'd hurt my leg. So I think I've got a stress fracture in my tibia. But thank you for asking. And rather unfortunate because I was planning on running a marathon next year, and I think I'm going to have to push that back. Great, thank you all very much for attending. Does anyone else have any questions? We've got a minute left. I've probably got time for one more question. But if not, it's been really enjoyable talking to you all about the one-to-one program. If you have any other questions, you can always send us a message in the Otto app. As I said, we do have limited slots, so if you do want to take this opportunity to work with us and you don't want to wait too long, it'd be better to sign up sooner rather than later. But otherwise, thank you all for joining. I've really enjoyed this webinar, and I will see you all next week. Thank you, Dave. Thank you all.